Welcome to the Fandom Outpost, your podcast for all things pop culture.
Hello there, and welcome to the Fandom Outpost. As always, I am Mark.
I'm Jim.
I'm Bob.
And we are your guides on this journey through all things pop culture. So welcome. This is not quite episode 1. I'd say episode 0.
Zero.
So, unfortunately, we got a million small talks out of the way already. So I think we're going to, I do really want to talk about the premiere of The Mandalorian.
Yes. Yeah, I'm dying to know what you guys thought about it. We've got a lot to share, I think.
Yeah, so it's funny, I got some notes, and my final note is something that I really want to share to see if you guys noticed that. But so what did you think overall of the episode? I'm kind of curious.
My first thought is that Pedro Pascal has become so famous, he's going to have to take off that mask.
Interesting.
I never wanted him to, but I'm like, I know who's under there now, and I'm like, you got to take off the mask.
Yeah. I'll use the word appetizer.
Yeah.
That's how I would look at this.
Wow.
Because what we had to do is we had to just remind everybody, last week on The Mandalorian, it's like, this is where we were. And, the last Mandalorian really was that Boba Fett episode.
Right.
And then the end of Boba Fett, right?
Right. It came out of the Book of Fett. Right.
Yeah, what a weird transition, because if you are not a fan of the Book of Boba Fett, or you chose not to watch that, I think you might be confused, because with Grogu being with the Mandalorian, you're like, wait a minute, he took him to go be with Luke. You know?
Right.
So
I never understood that deviation into the Mando in the Book of Boba Fett. It was just kind of a weird tangent.
They knew it would bring ratings. So
I mean, it was cool, but
I hate that. That's what I think it is too. But
what?
God, I refuse to believe that, because, like Jim and I, from our youth, like the comic book worlds, you would always have other superheroes crossing over and everything else. So even with the MCU movie version now, you still can get that, although to a lesser extent. It should be the norm. All these shows take place in the same time frame, so that dude literally can get in a spaceship and go over here and do that. You know, so I really hope
it shouldn't be a vital storyline, though. That's the only thing I think.
Well, wasn't his episode really a standalone?
Yeah,
for the most
part,
it was
weird.
If you remember, they were in the season finale of the Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
They had that whole. It made sense, because I forget the name of the gang or whoever it was. They were all going to do that. He had to get all this help, and Mando coming to help him makes sense, because he's a good fighter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's a lot of wasted with that, because that whole Cad Bane thing. Talk about the. And I hate to say it. Talk about the MCU theory of introducing a really cool villain, and then you off him in the same movie.
Oh no, that's
pretty much.
That's perfected by Lucas. I mean, we have Boba Fett, we've got Darth Maul, we've got Captain Phasma.
All they got
all three.
Then they got to scramble years later to figure out how to rejuvenate that character.
Well, we need to sell more product with those images on it, so we need to kind of beef their backstory up, right? No, I'm not really super 100% on my Clone Wars and my Rebels and all that, but doesn't, like, Darth Maul comes back, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's in the Solo movie, right?
Right, well, he's at the very end, yeah.
Yeah, so that Solo movie actually was made. Yeah, yeah.
I know we're going off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you're listening to all this stuff, we're not censoring any spoilers. Either you got to tune out and come back, or you got to assume that you've already watched half the stuff we're talking about, or all the stuff we're talking about. And the Rebels thing wrapped up Darth Maul's storyline because he was actually Obi-Wan appeared and stuff, and I won't go into detail, but they took that to another extreme. Not Rebels, I'm sorry, Clone Wars. Sorry. Oh man, there's a faux pas that the fans will just tear me a new asshole for.
You're okay.
So it's Clone Wars. Whereas that's where Darth Maul reappeared with his bionic legs and stuff like that.
Right.
He had a full arc with a brother and everything. Which brings me to, and we'll get back into Mandalorian in a second, but it always brings me to, because my wife Nikki brought this up, like, how do fans, like, everybody remembers the expanded universe are now Legends, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how do fans know so much and can do such joy, but yet the powers that be that hold this can't see, like, what's right in front of their face? You know what I mean? So, like, even if you go back to Lucas, is like, I just threw Boba Fett in there because, you know, he was cool and stuff. And for years, he was like, I don't acknowledge all those stories about him. But Jesus Christ, look at it now. 40 years later, he's one of the most popular characters still. You know?
Yeah, he's the greatest Star Wars character that never did anything, right?
Yeah. Well,
he's all,
according to all his backstory now, he has. So.
That was the cool thing. The mystery was the thing back in the day.
Yeah. Well, again, he's a good example of a character that was, you know, when you took all the mystery out of him, you made him really boring, right? So I don't need to know. I don't need to know the backstory of every mysterious character.
Are you guys? I know we got to get the Mandalorian. But
right.
Do you like? Do you like a character that's just dropped into a story, or you enter a story and you just take off running, or do you like that characters got to be developed from, you know, square one and the story starts here? You know, I kind of like the dropping in. Just, I mean, I always thought that was like, what's going on? This is like crazy. It's all new, and you're just like in an environment.
Yeah, I don't need to know.
That's what I tell with Boba Fett.
Don't need to know he had a sad childhood or what.
Yeah, I didn't need to know.
Yeah, right. I didn't know. I didn't know.
Didn't need to know.
I didn't know anything about him. I didn't.
Holy crap! I forgot all about that.
I didn't need to know anything about him.
Growing up, didn't he?
Yeah, like everybody says.
Oh my god!
So. Yeah, it's like no.
Wow. Well, here's what I never understood.
That's a whole nother episode.
Arguably, in The Empire Strikes Back, episode 5, one of the coolest scenes, of course, is the introduction of the bounty hunters. And at the time, being in our age group, you're like, with no internet and all this, no backstories, no books, no novels, nothing. You're like, oh my God, who are these dudes? And you got nothing. Nothing from any of them. And you barely got the littlest from Boba Fett.
Right.
You know, because he happened to be the guy that got lucky and pursued Han Solo. But I never understood, with as powerful as the Empire is, like that officer said, we don't need these guys.
Right. I don't have an elite squad of guys that can go out and find Han Solo. Right.
It's a Vader thing.
Weird gimmick.
I think it's a Vader, like Vader's going off script.
Oh,
and
maybe
like, I know some back channel stuff that can circumvent all the Andor bureaucracy.
Right, so he doesn't have to run it through his boss, the Emperor, right?
Yeah,
he's kind of doing the back end.
And he's like, I know some guys. That kind of thing.
Like a slush fund that he can get these, hire these bounty hunters.
I know a guy who could do this.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And the way that Fett kind of talks shit to him is like the only person that's ever really done that. It's like, he's no good to me, he's no good to me, Dad.
Yeah,
or whatever. It's
who didn't get choked out.
Yeah, he didn't get it. Vader's like, we'll compensate you. Don't worry about it. It's like,
I also feel, and this is my headcanon, controversial statement coming, I also feel like, does it feel like, even though now we got 40 years behind it, doesn't it feel like they have some history? Like they may had a run-in before?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it literally did. Like maybe he's so well known, or hey, he shoots first and asks questions later, so that's why he said no disintegrations. But it does feel like maybe he's reached out to the Vader has reached out to those back channels before and said, somebody contact this dude,
No, that's a great series on Disney right there.
Yeah. I mean, we don't get any of that. Like if we knew during the time of Empire and Jedi, the Guild and all that, Grief Karga, all these guys, like if we knew that existed, it might explain a little bit more. It took 40 years, obviously, for a new show to explain that stuff. You know what I mean? And here's the biggest gripe, and now I'm about to circle it back to The Mandalorian. The biggest gripe that everybody I've talked to, and even one that I have, controversial coming again, is that everybody loved Boba Fett, so we got the Mandalorian show because that's what they wanted. The Mandalorian is what they wanted in their Boba Fett. So to bring Boba Fett back doesn't work because you already had him.
I always thought it was odd to bring him back after Mandalorian. I thought it was the boat had sailed.
I like the way he appeared in the Mandalorian. Like he was different because he wasn't in his armor and all of that. So that was
more dropped in,
right? More dropped in, more mysterious character dropped in. But yeah, the first episode of Mandalorian, the very first episode of The Mandalorian was everything I wanted in Boba Fett as a kid. Someone figured out in the first episode of The Mandalorian. Someone goes, oh, this character is Clint Eastwood, the man with no name. He's even got like a squinty visor, and he's got a poncho. Yeah. It's like, it took him that long to commit that to screen. It's right there in the sketches and the sketchbooks and things like that. He looks...
Yeah.
And those guys,
you can't tell me...
Filoni and those guys just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. You can't tell me that Filoni and Favreau, when they were first coming up with the series, how many years ago now, that they didn't say, we're going to do this because we really love Boba Fett, so let's do this. So that's... I feel that's why it was so successful. But like you just said, Bob, the reintroduction of the actual character of Boba Fett is weird in a sense that we didn't need a story arc. He could have showed up as the retired guy that was doing this. I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, just come in.
Everybody's got to have a character arc, and I don't mind Boba Fett's character arc. I don't mind him not being a bad guy. I'm okay for change and all that. I mean, it's one of the things that I do enjoy about film, that just because everybody's used to what they saw in 1982 doesn't necessarily have to be the same in 2023. I mean, people change, and the characters, I mean, the dude's got, I mean, I don't know how the clones age. I don't know anything about that, but, I mean, he could be like, I'm tired of doing all this crap. I got swallowed up by a thing of teeth in the desert. I mean,
right?
Yeah, maybe it changes a man. Like I don't know. So,
my second thought watching was about Jim because I saw the Babu Frick guys, and I'm like, Jim's gonna be going crazy. I was like, Jim's got to be jumping out of his chair right now.
My favorite character from the new trilogy.
Like I knew he would be all over that.
He didn't do that.
Oh my God! Stop, dude! I knew that was coming. I am so for the whole world bringing, like, just give us everything. But I'm like, oh my God, why start with those people or those
that race of aliens, right?
Oh my God!
My wife loved it, so that goes to show you it's gonna.
And hey, there's
I did too, dude. She was jumping out of her seat when she saw those things. I was like, oh,
there's
my
a
God.
really cool action figure of him they sell in the parks. Like
What?
he's like, yeah, he's like to scale, and he's like animatronic, and he says a couple things.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that.
I found him online. Yeah, he was like he looked really cool. So yeah, he's fun. He's a fun character.
Yeah, he is. He's fun. I mean, you can't.
Or they are.
Star Wars doesn't lean into its comedy too much, which sometimes when you watch it and you get comedy either in The Mandalorian or any other show, it almost takes you back where you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. Star Wars does have comedy. You know what I mean? So, and I think right now between, I don't know if we're supposed to call him Mandalorian or
Mando.
Yeah, so the comedy between like him and Grogu,
is
very. I think it's very C-3PO R2D2-esque. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of a unspoken banter back and forth. So,
right.
But I will say this before we get back to the episode. I just wonder how that Grogu thing is going to have legs.
I think they're writing themselves. Season. They're writing themselves into a corner a little bit with him. I think, it's like now you can't get rid of him. You know what I mean? It's like that's going to be rough to get rid of him.
That's why we're building IG-11, right? That's why that's why we're rebuilding him, because he needs a babysitter.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So that he can go
you got
to
do a time jump
quest.
or something, like he's got to go. I mean, either they expand the Star Wars universe so much that we just get so many new shows, or this guy has to become a guest star in other shows, and his show has to end with a great 5-season run or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, quit while you're ahead. Don't just beat it into the ground where we're watching Lone Wolf and Cub for 6 seasons.
It really is Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yeah,
so
that's what I mean. And that's I'm not sure if you know what that is, Bob, but that's an old.
So do you remember when
Japanese...
we were young? There used to be these trailers for these movies called Shogun Assassin. Okay. And it was the samurai with the baby in the carriage and the blades come out of the wheels, and that's 100%. That's 100%
that's the vibe that I get. Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like.
And Star Wars is, it's samurai.
It's a timeless, right? It's the Guardian.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That works. That's totally
right. It's he's doing the same thing in The Last of Us, right? He's shepherding a kid across the wastelands or whatever.
Kid.
Right.
Holy crap! Do you know how many memes I see of Pedro Pascal with his arm out to that girl saying, "Stay out of sight, Grogu," and the girl's like, "What?" So I'm like, even they got to be laughing at that because it's got that same vibe. But I admit I haven't seen Last of Us yet, so I can't go down that road emotionally yet because I keep hearing that it's gut punch after gut punch. Yeah, so I will get to it eventually.
Well, hopefully,
I got some things to bring up about that episode, though. Man, they had during the beach scene. Two things, three things. Great misdirect for an opening. Like, I mean, my wife was like,
"Oh, sure,
we're watching
this his origin." Yeah,
we're watching his origin story. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, for him to come in, it really got me too. I was like, man, that was a good misdirect. Now there might be people out there that are like, "Oh, I saw it coming a mile away." Well, okay, I'm happy for you, but yeah, I didn't. I thought it was pretty good, And then a couple things that I thought were just absolutely outstanding was there's a helmet shot where the camera is attached to the helmet when a dude flies away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird things. Yeah. I was like, dude, to me, that was unique. I don't think I've seen that before in Star Wars.
No, that looked good.
I was like, that was a cool shot. Yeah, that was really cool. And it was so interesting. And we'll get to my theory about that in a minute. But I was like, that's just really cool. It's something different and unique. And then what I really, really loved is that every time a Mandalorian went down, somebody went to get them.
Yes.
Did you notice?
Yes,
absolutely. Every time somebody went down and got injured, somebody went to get them.
Yeah.
Without regards for their own safety. Yeah. So that brotherhood or whatever these guys call it, I'm not sure. In that one shot, in this one scene, I think sums up their order or their whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Really, really well on how they view each other and how precious that is for what they do. And I thought that was really good. Even that, who's the girl that forges everything? She just called her forger. Yeah, Armor.
Yes.
Even she went in there and was trying to get. I'm not sure if it was the little kid or no.
I think it was the kid, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought she went to get somebody like that.
Oh, they got stuck in the water. Yeah.
Yeah, and that big dude Paz Vesla with the big old gun or whatever. He knocked the kid out the way too because like the kid thought he was going to do something. So
the Jesse Ventura gun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. But I just thought, man, that whole scene to me was really worth it for a season opener. I was really happy that there was, to me, it gave more lore. It showed more about the characters and their relationship with each other. And it gave us backstory on how maybe some of this is and, the words that they use and stuff. I just thought it was great.
Yeah, that was a nice opening.
Yeah. Was that a crocodile?
I know. It had like a turtle back or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I keep looking at it going, is that a big-ass crocodile? Like, I couldn't tell if it was just...
It had like a shell on his back or something.
Crocodile.
It was a mix.
Yeah.
If I had to poke a hole in Star Wars, I was like, all these creatures, like that was, and I understand it's water, but it's very crocodile-esque. I'm like, couldn't do something else,
Right.
All this stuff that you got.
Oh, one of the alien races that I despise, I just really don't like him because it feels lazy, and sorry to all the people at ILM that work very hard on all of that stuff. One of the race showed up as one of the pirates, and it showed up in that Mando episode in Book of Boba Fett. It's the pit bull faced people. They're just dog people. Yeah. And it's like, out of all the millions of creative things that you guys throw away, it was the dog people that you decided to keep, right?
Yeah.
You have 1,000 races that you've created thus far. Any Cantina alien, it's the dog people.
Yeah, the dog people. I do want to say this. Disclaimer, it's very easy for us armchair quarterbacks to pick on that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We're all fans.
That's true.
So, I mean, I get it. Maybe it's one of those things that, we know nothing about the inner workings of what they have to pick with and go with and, time constraints and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess when you see stuff and you think of Star Wars, every episode should have something new and something fresh with maybe a little bit of a throwback. That's my personal opinion. You know what I mean?
I could see that. I could see where familiarity helps bring you in, right?
Right.
So, seeing something that looks canine would be, oh, okay, I can. And again, Star Wars is not made, and it's
easy
to forget it. It's just not made for us and our generation. It is made for not just kids. It is made for the world, which everybody forgets. The world.
I'm gonna spring Andor on you though.
Because
I look at that as a totally different avenue. Because Mando was kind of the Star, like you say, the Star Wars lore, the fun, the characters. Whereas the Andor thing, I just love. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm older now, and I want that drama. I want that like how do the inner workings, all that behind the scenes, all that strategic stuff, the espionage. It's a whole different thing, but I do still have a soft spot for the characters, the fun.
Sure.
But
Andor's a good
the episode. I was a little worried about the episode, though. I'm kind of hoping it builds up a little more. I just thought it was kind of a like the fight with the pirates was quick, and it was just like, what's the deal with that? And the whole thing with him because he took his helmet off, and now he can't be in the group anymore, or whatever, the club.
Well, don't they go like 8 episodes or something like that? Isn't that kind of the standard?
Yeah,
so
I hope it fleshes out a little more of a
This is the whole setup. This is the setup for the season episode, right? This is telling you Bo-Katan's there, and this is the problem.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of kind of. He must have said 6 times, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do.
Literally, he's telling you where that season's supposed to go, right?
Yeah. I do like you. Jim, you mentioned IG-11, and I do like that they came back to him, and then the whole, I know you guys got this right away, the whole Terminator feel when the thing was trying to kill him.
100%.
Yeah, dude.
One arm and everything.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. So
that was a fun
somebody's got a love for that stuff. And you know what? I'm just going to say this because I know Bob and I have been on this Creek kick for a while, and that'll have to be in the future as well. But,
I knew this was. I knew you were going to go there.
Carl Weathers is always a win, dude. That dude is a major win for me. I am so happy that something beyond the Rocky verse for him. Right. And I know he did other things, and he did things in the 80s and the 90s, and then he did some comedies and stuff. But this is a good settling in role for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And plus, Plus that outpost, and I forgot to write it down in my notes, so I apologize. But like going from season 1 to season 2 to season 3 to see what he is building, like it's obviously flourishing. That's really cool. So it's like,
right.
And it's one of the aspects that I personally love about the show, that it's like, hey, I got to go to 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee. And so that's a weird analogy. But he zips in his thing and goes visit Grief Karga. And then he's got to go see Amy Sedaris on, where she was from. Like, I like that they could just do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we've built these worlds, and thank God, Mandalorian, thank you for the different worlds and the different weather environments, because I can't handle sand. Like, I get tattooing, but damn.
It's
cheap. We're getting sand.
It's cheap to film in sand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
I literally had it written down. So great to see different planet systems and environments with differing weather, which was like, thank you so much. Also, nice. There's a space battle in there, and I was like, we don't get a lot of those, so I love that. Bob's.
Yeah,
I see a face.
Yeah, he's sucking in air there.
It was a little quick. I thought. I was like, what did he do? He just like hit the accelerator or something. Yeah. It was just like, I don't know. There was something.
He went into hyperspace, I guess.
So the pirates are being set up to, the Davy Jones looking dude is going to be with us, and we're going to be tracking him down. So he'll be another foe for the Mandalorian. So
yeah, they're going to be that ancillary foe that if he keeps running into pirates, they're going to probably want to do it. That can give us our weekly bout of action, our quick draw scene and stuff like that. So, but I enjoyed that there was a space battle. I was like, thank you for putting a space battle, because if you go back, all this stuff is on the ground. There's so much on the ground,
Right.
So I like that. I know it's the outer rim or whatever it is. I don't know how to explain all that, but I just like that if it's got to be pirates, I don't care. Like, Star Wars is space battles as well. So so I want to see a good space battle.
There's a great one in Andor, I gotta say, but
God. Yeah, okay.
It's probably the best one I've seen in a long time.
Okay.
It's a cool one.
For those who might listen to this at a later date, or if this comes up, I have not seen Andor, and my co-hosts here, Bob and Jim, are very adamant about it. I've heard great things. I've read great things. I just haven't found the time to watch it. So I'm not knocking at it or anything, but I can tell that, especially Bob's chomping at the bit to talk about it.
I know.
So I will make it a habit to get to it. I just got to kind of get it on that list. So
some might say before Korean War plane dramas might be a good time to watch Andor.
Yeah, but the wife wants to watch Andor too.
Okay,
so
no, that's a whole different wrinkle. So excuse to that point.
Did you catch that in the episode? Did you catch that little nod to Cara Dune?
Yeah.
Kind of mentioned her being like, okay, she's went off. And
she got drafted by somebody, Special Forces or something.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, next. Whatever.
You know what? Like Bob said in the beginning of this, you can drop stuff in. You don't need to talk about her. I mean, they really don't. You know what I mean?
Right. It's in
my opinion,
they acknowledged her for the fandom. Yeah. So next, right.
And I am of the opinion that time. I mean, unless you are, I'm not even going to say it. That's controversial. Unless you've done something heinous and horrific in the entertainment industry,
right?
Like everybody forgives everybody, and eventually people come around again. So
we're getting Go ahead. We're getting a Flash movie, so apparently that's true.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, they've been working on that while he was having his bout of craziness. That's a whole nother episode, too. But
that's another episode.
I think that, and you know what kills me about that tangent? That's probably going to be one of the biggest movies ever. I mean, ever of all time.
The one with Keaton in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the draw right now for me.
Is gonna
it's got a lot of stuff, dude. It's got the new Supergirl in it, and it's got a lot of stuff that James Gunn is going to play off of to launch his new universe, so to speak.
It's the perfect starting point for the next wave of DC stuff. So.
Yeah, but
But we digress. We digress.
The best thing they can do is go get Grant Gustin. Grant Gustin is the guy who plays the Flash on the what is it, CW? WB?
Right.
CW. Go get him. He's done it for like 9 years. Bring him on board into the motion pictures. Everybody loves him. He seems fine. I don't have a problem with him. There you go. Problem solved. But everybody's always like, we got to push the next up-and-coming star. We got to get this person. They're famous, blah, blah, blah. You don't need all that crap.
No.
Sorry. Tangent. I do want to say this last thing about The Mandalorian because we have to move on. Did you notice in the credits who the cinematographer was?
Yeah.
You did? You caught that?
Well, Halloween connection.
Yeah, dude. Did you see it, Jim?
Didn't pay attention, no.
I caught that. My eye caught that. I'm like, hey, I even mentioned it out loud. Like, hey, that's the cinematographer in Halloween. Dean Cundy.
Tell
Oh, is it Cundy? Nice.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
I was excited.
How crazy was that?
That's fantastic.
Man, that was great that he was, I don't know how much input he had, but that dude's kind of legendary as far as cinematographers go.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, you got to think that maybe he gave somewhat of a flair. I mean, maybe it was his idea for the camera above the, whatever, but I seriously hope to see his name throughout the series, I hope it's not a one-off that he just came in and did that.
Would be a waste if
I wonder.
Didn't. He's highly underused, and one might,
if that wasn't clear for anybody at home, it's Dean Cundy, who we all love him because of Bob's favorite movie, one of his favorites, Halloween, and then
just his work with John Carpenter in general.
Yeah,
right?
So. And as you guys out there listen to us, you're going to get a lot of references for Carpenter sprinkled throughout a lot of this stuff. And so Dean Cundy is at the top of our list as far as cinematographers go.
It all comes back to this.
So the other thing we're going to talk about is that a little while ago, Jim, I think it was Jim, that he had said he had read. Jim, why don't you say what it was?
Just looking around the internet and fan stuff as I usually do, did run across someone had remarked that the year 1984 was an exceptional year for film, especially in the categories of classics that we come back to today, things that have either started franchises or things that are just looked upon as really, I don't know, innovative isn't the right word, but just a good timestamp for that pop culture.
Right.
And
right.
So we were just, when we talked originally, we just kind of went through just a handful of them. We're like, oh my gosh, that came out, and that one, and this one too, and
the sheer amount of monumental films that year. When I was doing a little research, it's just unbelievable the number of like noteworthy movies in our lives.
Yeah, that's
came
a
out
better way
that
to
year.
say it.
I can't even believe.
And do me a favor, throw off 5 right now. Just throw off a top 5.
Throw off 5. I mean,
Jim, you hit 5. I'll hit 5.
Yeah,
I'll just go genre-wise from. I can tell you Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters, Gremlins, The Last Starfighter. Splash was one.
Okay.
Let me hit.
Go ahead.
Let me hit. Amadeus, Body Double, Nightmare on Elm Street, 16 Candles, Beverly Hills Cop. The Natural, Purple Rain, The Terminator. I mean, it's like
I could run a blockbuster with just the output from 1984. Right.
Half of our Blu-ray libraries are probably filled with these.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
year.
Absolutely.
And the thing I want to say is, so I have my eldest daughter, obviously who you guys know. She, for some reason, is one of those of the next generation or this current generation who loves all things 80s. And she so loves those movies. And it's funny because I have, and I'm sure you guys do as well, we have different perspectives on those movies than what she does or has discovering them now in this time. And I guess I should say this too. So the reason why we've kind of decided to do a podcast is because the three of us grew up literally suckling at the teat of 70s and 80s cinema. And for a nice chunk, we were all ushers at our local theater. So half the stuff that we would talk about during that time frame, we got to see the premieres of. And, you know, this is a weird one that I'm going to throw out there. I'm going to say Karate Kid 2. Karate Kid was okay. It was directed by the guy who directed Rocky, John G. Avildsen. And everybody's like, oh, that Karate Kid that's kind of cool. But then Karate Kid 2 comes along. Oh, all right, they're going to make a sequel. Cool. This has nothing to do with 84, but I'm just kind of putting it into perspective. And then I don't know if you guys remember that opening day, the lines were out around down into the parking lot around the corner for the Karate Kid 2, you know? And I'm like, wow, what is this movie? And, you know, you see the first one on TV or something. It's okay. It's not that big a deal, but the hype machine didn't exist back then the way it does now. You get a trailer and you get some television commercials, and that's about it. So if you were actually driving by the theater on that particularly rainy afternoon, you would just see this incredible line, at least at the theater we worked at. And you'd be like, what is that? What came out, or what could that be? And it was the Karate Kid 2. I remember that one shocking me. You know what I mean? As far as movies go and things like that. But I digress. So the statement being, was it the best year in film? Well, my little story about my daughter would certainly lend credit to that.
Uh-oh.
Any number of reboots in a franchise or sequels or things coming out now certainly lend credibility to that, you know? And the best one I got is one of the reasons why we do this is because of pop culture, because there are so many things ingrained in pop culture that have changed the world as we know it that come from the 70s and 80s. I'll just do the biggest one. May the Force be with you. Sure. I bet you could go in every language on the planet and everybody would know what that means. You know, if you were sitting there, Bob mentioned this one, if you were sitting there and I got up from the dinner table or we were all together and I said, I'll be back. Everybody know instantly what I'm talking about. You know, it's unbelievable. But continue, please, gentlemen.
Oh, okay. Well, Bob, why don't you give us a little history on kind of what was going on? You know,
some of the events around there. Obviously, it was a tense situation in geopolitical terms, right? That was the year Reagan was caught off there saying, he's going to outlaw Russia and we'll begin bombing in 5 minutes. It was that kind of it was that the off the cuff thing he had on his before his radio show. It was kind of called a hot mic. Wow. Yeah, open mic. It was kind of a tense era, right?
A little bit.
I mean, you kind of have to think about how it was, you know, put yourself in that era. Like, that was the year of the personal computer, the whole 1984 Mac commercial on the Super Bowl.
Right.
And the personal computer came to your house. You know, you could actually have your own kind of a, you know, personal computer. That was a big deal.
Couldn't do anything with it, though, because the internet wasn't.
Right. No, the internet was probably, 10, 12 years away or something.
Yeah.
But let's see. TV shows that were popular. The Cosby Show debuted. Miami Vice debuted. I mean, those are pretty huge coming in that year.
Yeah, absolutely. Never heard of them?
Nope.
Yeah. PG-13 rating was kind of adopted.
That was created.
I think Red Dawn was the first. Red Dawn was the first one.
So what's the controversy about the PG-13? What are the two movies that prompted the PG-13 rating?
That would be Gremlins and Temple of Doom for one.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
And Gremlins is specifically, I know it's the blender scene, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that the one she puts in the blender?
Yeah, they're
that movie?
literally trying to murder her.
Yeah,
well,
the one lady that they shoot out
oh, yeah. Well, that's comical.
The chair.
Yeah.
I know, dude. Still, she goes like 80 feet in the air and hits the tree. Ain't no way she survived that. So, I mean, but that and then the heart scene.
The heart scene from Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Right.
And what did you say? What was the first PG-13 movie, Bob?
You said Red Dawn. They kill their one traitor friend.
The friend. That was a pretty
brutal
movie.
Isn't is it C. Thomas Howell who starts kind of going off his nut there? Like, oh, that head just came apart. It's crazy. And he's just like,
it's
been a long time since I've seen it. He starts going all.
He has no emotion, and he just keeps killing. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. But
that's it.
I think it was the subject matter about the Russian forces invading at the time, Cold War and stuff, which that brings me to a good point too. On a tangent, like this is something I talk to my daughter about. Like we live with a real threat every day. Not that it doesn't exist, especially given current climate, but not the way we felt that it did back then. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which was like the whole, will they or won't they? I mean, every day it felt like somebody's gonna we'd have the joke like somebody's gonna pick the wrong button. And, somebody's gonna have
And it hadn't been that way since the Cuban Missile Crisis, right?
Yeah.
That was the last time it seemed to be that tense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just remember that, dude. And I remember a lot of strife in the Middle East. And so you're always kind of, what the point I'm getting at is that the theater, the movies was such an escapism.
Yes.
And I quote this to this day, I tell my kids this, Bruce Willis said it best. He was like, a movie is 2 hours for you to go and have fun and forget about your job, forget about what's going on in the world, and just enjoy yourself. I've never forgot him saying that, and I agree with that 100%. Even if it's a bad movie, it's still, everybody's bad movie is somebody's good movie. You're enjoying your time there in the theater. I mean, unless it's so horrific and you're like, you gotta walk out or something. But, I'll stomach every movie I can at least sit in and stuff. So, but I don't think that with the internet and the closeness that we feel in the world, I mean, we could go on right now and Google anything about the war in Ukraine and we're like, oh, okay. Let's see. But you couldn't do that back then. So
no.
The climate was very scary. You know what I mean? Until Rocky came along and saved all of us.
and the day after scared the crap out of us.
Yeah,
my
brother.
That was 83 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little bit prior to that.
Yeah, my brother was. We were just talking about that the other day. You remember that movie? And I was like, oh yeah, that was the day after. I absolutely remember that movie.
We watched it
did you
over
watch
the pandemic.
Oh, did you?
And, because I wanted to show the kids, like, hey, this was a really important movie when I was in high school, and it, scared the crap out of everybody. And I mean, it's still pretty rough. I mean, it's a rough movie. I mean,
if I'm not mistaken, too, it has a disclaimer in there at the end that says, even though this is a work of fiction, if this were to happen in real life, it would be 10 times worse than they depicted in the movie.
Yeah,
that's their disclaimer at the end.
They didn't sugarcoat much in that movie.
Yeah,
it was like, even watching it now, it's like, dang, that is rough.
And they gave it kind of a very War of the Worlds, Orson Welles radio vibe. They were telling the story through the lens of news reports and things like that. That was kind of that disclaimer. They were, hey, if you're tuning in, just don't think the world is ending because you're watching a news report. The guy says the world is ending.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my God. Speaking of that, there is another one. I cannot recall the name of it. That they did exactly like that. And it was a group of radical individuals were on a boat and they had a bomb. They had a nuclear device. And the way the program was told, as if it was two news reporters and it was live. Man, you got to look this thing up. You can find it on YouTube. And I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it. But it is terrifying because it is all filmed like that news footage, not as a movie. You know what I mean? And it is, every time that came back on, they had to keep with this disclaimer that this is only this and this, it's not. But I watched it, I revisited it probably about a year ago, and I was like, oh my God, this thing is really terrifying. Even today, it's still terrifying. But I recommend it. If you can find it, and hopefully Bob can get the title for us because he's our stat guy.
Well, we'll look it up, and if we don't get it through this episode, maybe we can drop it in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
or
that's
our
it.
Facebook page and
there you go.
everything like that.
Or our Facebook page.
But it was all that kind of thing at that time. You know what I mean? That kind of.
It's a very effective tool to use the medium. It's like if somebody were to take some social media platform and start posting something like it's a recording and it's, this is happening. This is,
Yeah.
That would be
They kind of had that perspective when you're watching the day after. It's like you were kind of seeing it from the lens of the residents in Kansas. And It was like they weren't getting all the information, so you weren't getting it either. So you didn't know how bad it was.
Right.
So that was kind of terrifying too. So.
Well, it's a good point. And since we're on this, in the 80s, because of the climate and atmosphere, there were a lot of those type of movies that came out in the 80s. There was, Jim, I don't know if you know this one. Bob, you might not know it, but there was one called World War III with David Soul about the Alaskan pipeline.
Yeah.
Remember that one? I think we watched that on TV together.
Probably.
And that was about if the Russians decided to come through Alaska and cut off the pipeline, and there was a small National Guard outpost that had to defend it. And that, I'm going to tell you, that movie doesn't end very well either. So, and then there's another one that I got with Anthony Edwards that I loved during
Miracle
that time
Mile.
called
Miracle
my
Mile.
God, yeah, thank you, Miracle Mile.
They had a fantastic soundtrack by Tangerine Dream. It's really good.
And spoiler alert,
he gets
fans,
the call.
that does not end very well either. So that's when we gets the call, the phone booth. So, but because of that, I think you had those type of movies, but you had such escapism. You know what I mean? So you had the end of the world type stuff where it was like, oh, those are really chilling and stuff. But then on the flip side, all the movies that you guys just mentioned, pure escapism, which is awesome. So delve back into that escapism because
we're getting off into the dark angle.
Yeah, to the darkness, and we don't want to do that.
Well, it was a big year in music. I mean, I'm sure you guys all took part in MTV. That was like kind of its height. Came out in early 82 or so, and
82 or 83, I thought.
Yeah, hitting 84 was like you had Madonna doing her performance on the MTV Video Awards. Michael Jackson was at his peak. His hair caught fire on doing the Pepsi commercial that year.
Oh my gosh!
And then a little album called Purple Rain comes out and kind of takes over that time period for music. Music movies, music in movies.
I saw
basically a concert film.
I saw Purple Rain. I don't even know if I should go down this road, but let's just get it started. I saw Purple Rain with a mutual friend of ours. And he was like, we're going to go see this. Mutual friend's a little pushy, but, you guys know who I'm talking about.
No, not that
And we
guy.
go see it, at the State Wayne. And he's like, this is going to be awesome. And I had never been in a movie where people stood up like we were at a concert.
That's funny.
So if anybody remembers Purple Rain, it starts with the what is it? Let's Go Crazy.
Let's Go Crazy.
Yeah, and it's that pseudo on stage kind of thing before it kicks into the movie. But man, when that happened, I had to look around because, if they had lighters, they would have been hitting the lighters in the air. But there were just people that were standing up and like it was a real concert stuff. And I remember looking at him and I was like, what? And he's like, he was very, for that. He's like, yeah, man, this is the way it should be. And I was like, okay. It was just a really strange experience. I love the movie, by the way, but I was like, wow, that was that audience participation. And I don't know anything about Rocky Horror. I had discovered that yet. But,
gotcha.
like you were actually at a concert. Like, the people embraced Purple Rain like there was no other.
I'm trying to think if there were anything as far as concert movie type films that were before that. I can't think of one that was really, it'd be like Pink Floyd The Wall or something, but
yeah, that would have been before that, I think.
Yeah, so. I'm trying to think that the Purple Rain really like connected with the concert and had the storyline of the father and the girl and Apollonia and all that. But that concert was kind of the sell. It was like, here's the concert. You got the soundtrack coming. It's hitting on all the radio channels, and the concert's coming. And I actually went in November and I saw it at Joe Louis Arena.
Nice.
He had like 3 shows or something. I went to one. I got lucky enough to get into one of them, and it was just like that was like peak Prince. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen the photos of your time during.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I was a little into Prince.
You were a brave enough man to show those, and you owned that look, and I am very proud.
You did. You owned it, man.
And I'm proud to call you my friend for owning that look.
Yes,
and keeping the evidence, because I would have gotten rid of all the evidence. So.
Yeah, and not in any way, shape, or form making fun. That is an awesome snapshot of the period, man. It is beautiful. So
it's like excellent. The guy on The Wedding Singer's got the Michael Jackson jacket. That's kind of how it was. Back in the day, and I did want that Michael Jackson jacket.
Everybody wanted that. Did you want the Beat It jacket, or did you want?
I couldn't afford it at merry-go-round.
Thriller jacket.
So. Oh my God,
the
merry-go-round! Jesus Christ, name dropping that store.
Would you get the Thriller jacket or the Beat It jacket? I don't know. The Beat It jacket was a little more of a motorcycle with the zippers and stuff.
Yeah, it's a little hard to pull off those shoulders though on the Thriller jacket.
Yeah,
the Thriller one. You're committed to the Thriller one.
Oh, the Thriller one was good though. It had a good design. It was the right color, the right shade of red with black. So it was like that one. I think people wearing that would be more comfortable just in general than the Beat It with its 57 zippers. And you're like, what's going on with this thing? Like, that one was a little, I don't know.
I came across a Thriller video that was remastered in 4K on YouTube. If you ever want to check it out, and it's got the John Landis connection.
It's got a great.
It looks how many times really good.
With our group of friends growing up, right?
Oh
yeah, I videotaped it and watched it over and over.
A million times.
So the highest selling video cassette at the time, if I'm not mistaken, because that thing only came out for purchase. It premiered on MTV as like a mini movie, and then you could buy like the making of, which had the video and stuff. But it was like sales for that were off the charts. And I had this friend, same one. So I'm just trying to protect the names here.
The innocent.
And this friend, who we love to death, we love him to death, but he lived closer to me than you two. And actually, I don't think I knew you yet, Bob, at that time. But so
a year and a half. Later.
Watching this Thriller on videotape over and over again. I can't believe I'm about to put this out there. We would have to choreograph it in the house, then go out in the street underneath the street lights and perform the
street light. Right.
Oh my God!
I think a lot of people did that.
Yeah,
I would hope, but I've never seen it. I see it in modern times because people think it's cool and it's niche now. But at the time, I didn't see anybody doing that unless you're like going to go up on stage and do a gong show thing or something like that where you could perform that stuff. And first of all, I'm white. I got no rhythm in me whatsoever. I'm like, but this friend, God love him, who is still around, by the way, and we're not talking about like he's not with us anymore, but he was very adamant about working with me as if he was a fuking choreographer. And he's like, you're going to get this,
If I would have known him back then, we could have really made a good partnership.
Because I'm like, I can't move my hips like that. He's like, yes, you can. Let's just do it like this. I'm like, oh my God.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, let's do it again. Oh, and then he, of course, is the only guy in our neighborhood. He had the boombox. He had that ginormous boombox, so we would just have to put the tape in and take it out with us. And every parent in the neighborhood was like, what is wrong with these fucking kids? What are they doing? But little did those parents know probably what was going on, because Michael Jackson at the time was arguably, he was probably the number one star. I guess I'd have to say, right?
Yeah.
So,
83, 84.
Yeah, dude.
That was it. That was the mountain.
That Thriller peak, yeah. Like, I don't think, I mean, arguably you could say he did good stuff afterward, but that's the peak. You know what I mean? You can't
I could segue us back into films, because Thriller was the number one album, and that year it fell to number 2. Any guess what soundtrack knocked Thriller out of number 1?
I'm going to say
1984.
I think I know, but I want to let Mark guess.
Go ahead, Mark. You go. Just take a shot. It was a movie that came out that year. I believe it was that year. Let me make sure.
The Bodyguard?
You probably got teased from your hair for this looking like this dude.
Really? I gotta give up that I don't know that one.
I'm gonna guess
Footloose.
Oh my god! Yeah. And that
what kind of
Red McCormick look going on back in the day? Wow.
Yeah, it was about
what were your guys' memories of Footloose? Briefly,
I never watched it.
That kind of took things by storm too a bit.
It wasn't my.
You know what? Go ahead, Jim.
It wasn't my thing. I never watched it. So I mean, I've since seen it, but it's like it didn't
like on cable
me.
Or something.
Yeah.
To
good
me,
cast,
it wasn't
nice cast. They had a good cast.
Yeah,
it was all right. I didn't hold it in high esteem. It seemed like the storyline for that was like, oh, okay, small town kid. I mean, I get it.
Preacher's daughter doesn't dance,
but it wasn't. I don't know why. I don't know why it gets the hype that it does even now. Like, it wasn't
right. The remake and all. I don't know. I never really thought.
Yeah, like I don't. It's funny. You're pointing out a lot of good things, Bob. And one of the things that I don't think people realize is that in the 80s, especially, not the 70s, and I think it probably dropped off in the 90s, but the 80s was the time of the movie soundtrack.
Yeah.
Where studios went out and paid money to get all these hot songs to be in a movie. You know, like it was one long giant music video in between acting shots.
Would you say MTV played a role in that? With
I'd say MTV played a great role in that.
Cross promotion.
It is like the social media of its time. It's the thing that you got it.
Yep.
It's like every
you saw it here first.
Yeah, every music video is a commercial for your film, right?
Yeah, and most likely MTV, if I remember correctly, they got the videos prior to a film's release. So, when you hear "Let's Hear It for the Boy," you see it on MTV 400 times, and it's interspersed with, scenes from Footloose, and then suddenly Kenny Loggins' Footloose comes out, and that has to intersperse different scenes. After a while, you're like, I think I'm going to see that movie because it looks good, question mark. Like, I don't even know if you would say that. You would just be like, oh, those videos were cool, so I want to go see the movie.
You couldn't just look up Footloose trailer on YouTube. It's like you might catch it on TV.
The power of Kenny Loggins, general with film soundtracks is pretty well documented, right?
He really picked his spots, didn't he? He had the Caddyshack, this.
I had heard
he
something
really picked when he hit.
I had heard something with the new Top Gun that came out. I'd heard him. They were interviewing him at NPR or something, and he was saying they brought a bunch of them in to watch Top Gun, and they were a bunch of songwriters, musicians. They were looking for them to write some music for it, like a cattle call of people. And he said when he left there, he goes, "We're going to write the volleyball scene music because nobody's going to do that." And that's what got him hired. So there
we'll
it
have
is.
to hit 1986 a little later.
Yes, we'll definitely hit 1986 a little later. So any more?
That's when we were in the height of our
usherdom, yes.
Movie usher days
in '86.
Yeah, coming into '86.
That was what do they call it? Like you throw a
dart.
Throw a dart, and everything was a blockbuster. Like you literally couldn't miss. You know what I mean? So,
right.
well, 84 could be said that too. So,
yeah.
But,
so this is 84 is definitely the start of this. Crazy film. I mean, it's like, and one thing that kind of helps the longevity of a lot of these films that we're gonna just go over quickly. But one of the things that helps that is the home video market and just the absolute ravaging hunger for people to buy home videos or rent home videos or rent and
it's interesting.
At the time, it's got to be rent. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that year was ironically, you mentioned that the home video recorder was deemed not illegal to record at home, which was the first year you could actually do that without pirating or whatever. You know what I mean?
I'm a pirate.
So that was kind of like people were starting to buy VCRs. My dad bought our VCR in like 82, I think.
Did you live in fear?
With the MTV. It was a Beta Max.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. That thing was good. I mean, it looked good. I was really depressed when it got
when it lost the war.
Went under the the sales.
That's because they didn't share their technology. That's why VHS won, because they shared their technology. They said everybody make VHSs. It's great.
Yeah. So I know Mark took advantage of that recording.
A little bit, yeah.
He had your own library back in the day.
Yeah,
movies. Mark, can I borrow that?
I remember when I bought mine for $400.
Walter's Appliance.
And yes, well, I didn't get mine there. Our friend, this is the third story about the same guy. They got theirs there.
Oh,
but
okay.
He got a silver, nice streamline 2 thing,
the double.
Yeah, and his was like $900. $900. and he got his first. So, and you kind of had limited video stores. Like Walters would have. They would rent out a few, so you kind of had to get one you like and watch it over and over for a week or whatever, and then you had to let it go. And if you liked it enough, you just went down there the same day and checked it back out. So you could keep it going. But once I got mine, it was tough to convince my mom the worthiness of what it was. She didn't understand what it was because I'm not sure cable existed then. I think HBO was coming up.
Yeah, it was coming around.
We probably had On and It TV at that time.
Yeah, On was there. I knew that one. So, but
HBO was the big one.
HBO would be the big one once they joined the market. But I remember my brother. He kidnapped the VCR. He was like, "This thing is great, whatever it is." And so, and this is the story behind that the library. In order to keep it away from my brother, I just took it down to his house. I took it down to our friend's house so that it would sit there and we could just record like it was no tomorrow. So that's why I ended up with 9 billion movies on VHS tapes because I would just leave it down there for a week. And between him and what was the name of that video store that we all belonged to?
Is it Thomas's? No.
No?
No, the one you guys ended up working at?
Universal?
No, it wasn't Universal. It came before that. It was right before that. So I forget what it was. It was farther way up the highway from where Universal ended up being. So, but it was a little mom and pop store. And he had his own separate one, and I had my own separate one. And we just, and you could do 2 at a time. You could take out 2 at a time. So, and sometimes, we didn't drive yet. And that's it. That's it right there.
Video Hut?
That's it. It was a Video Hut. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, next to the Chinese restaurant over on...
That's exactly what it was. And we had to convince parents to drive us up there sometimes. And, they'd be like, no, I'm done because we weren't driving yet. You know what I mean? But we'd rent 4 at a time, come home, record all of it, and then, we want to take it back the next day. I'll tell you, man, our parents were like, this is ridiculous. But clearly, I had my eye on a bigger prize at the end there because that library that I ended up with would have filled a bookcase. So
And much like the audio world of mixtapes, selecting the correct movies to bundle on your EP,
your SLP,
your SL. Yes.
Well, that's why I love trilogies at the time, because trilogies fit
6 hours.
Yeah, if you hit that 6 hour one, you were good. Not trilogies nowadays like Lord of the Rings, which wouldn't be able to fit that on a VHS.
No, can't fit the one movie on the
yeah, that's true. And I didn't care if the quality was like SLP, LP.
No, we had no.
Yeah, it was like, all right, just as long as I get the 6 hours, I'm good, and it looks good enough for me. So but I'm telling you, man, we found everything and anything that we could get our hands on. It didn't matter what type of movie it was, except I guess musicals and. Now I had romantic comedies too, so I was just trying to think of any genre. But musicals would probably be the number one that we didn't record all the time. So
gotcha.
Well, we could come back to our favorites, but I did have the Siskel and Ebert worst of 1984 list. If you want to hear a few of these.
Yeah, I got to hear this.
Top of the list, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle.
Oh, I like Sheena, Queen of the Jungle.
I was about to say, that's a Jim movie right there. He likes that one.
Oh, that's Tanya Roberts.
With Tanya Roberts, yeah.
Tanya Roberts.
Yeah. I mean,
and did she just pass away this year? Last year?
Yeah. I think you're right.
I think so.
And then this one's going to hit you tough, Mark, but Rhinestone with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, my God. Get out of here with that. Oh.
That's what they said.
And probably one we tried to see through the scrambling was Bolero. With Bo Derek.
I worked at the theater when Bolero was there.
Did you?
And it was all creepy old men. It was all creepy old men. It was
my God.
It was in theater one, I think, for like a week, and it was gone.
Oh my God!
It's not even that good a movie. Like,
it doesn't make sense.
It's like people
that thing was on HBO.
On Bo Derek, and that's it.
Yeah, it was on HBO or something probably about 6 months ago, and I was like, "What do I remember about this? Is it as bad as I remember?" Yes, it is. I actually sat there and said, "I'm going to watch this thing in modern times." So I'm like, "Oh my God, what did anybody see in that thing?"
It was creepy.
Cannonball Run 2.
Oh, those
probably
are
made a boatload of money.
Yeah, those are good. That Burt Reynolds, Tom DeLuise combo, that's so good.
Must have been better in the first one, I guess.
The first one was obviously better, but the second one was fun. It was just a fun movie.
City Heat.
Saw that
Clint
with
Eastwood
and Clint.
And Burt Reynolds.
I think you and I saw
that was a big deal, right? These two guys.
They showed a clip of it. It was so ridiculous.
And they
played to their tropes, who they were.
And they came up in the studio system together. Burt Reynolds always told a story about when they went in to see some producer who was going to let them out of their contracts, and he was like, what did he tell Burt Reynolds? He told. He said something about him, and he said something about Eastwood's Adam's apple's too big, and Burt Reynolds. His teeth were jacked up, and when they left there, he was like, "What are you going to do?" And Burt Reynolds was like, "Well, I can get my teeth fixed. You can't fix your Adam's apple." So, of course, those guys
wear a turtleneck.
Wanted to make a ton of money, so.
It's funny. They had a friendly rivalry between the two of them because Eastwood, as the rumors go, when Eastwood did Every Which Way But Loose, stuff like that.
Right.
Burt Reynolds would call up and be like, watch it now. You're slipping into my territory with the type of comedy. So then Reynolds would turn around and go make like a Sharky's Machine,
right.
Which is a good gritty cop drama. And, and Eastwood would be like, okay, slow down now. So I think they had a good,
they were friends.
Cop rivalry, if you were.
They were friends.
So.
Yeah. This one you guys may argue about. I had never really seen this, but the Dune movie.
Oh yeah, that was at the theater when I worked there that year. Yeah. So 84 was the year I started.
Right.
The theater. So I remember
that. It had you had to get that flyer with it.
We handed out flyers to people that had like a glossary of all the terminology used in the movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then we were like, who's going to read this in the dark as the movie's going on? Right?
Oh, it's terrible. I
That's
guess
funny.
you expected to read it before it started
Right.
or something.
Yeah.
And now that's got a huge cult following. It's not the best
Right.
movie, but it's got a huge following now.
The Fremen are
David
these.
Lynch?
The spice is this.
That's
David,
David
Lynch is
Lynch,
doing
right?
with,
David
Tom
Lynch.
McLaughlin.
Which I don't know. He took his name off it, so it's not listed. What's that name that directors put on there?
It's an Alan Smithy.
With it?
It's an Alan Smithy.
It's an Alan Smithy movie, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so he took his name off it.
Let's see. Friday the 13th, Part 4.
Yeah, I remember that.
That must have been. I didn't think that
Jason
was
gets
that bad,
the machete in the side of the head.
The side of the head and slides down.
Yes. Yeah. Don't you remember that? Don't you remember that?
With the Tom Savini,
Crispin Glover
movie.
Crispin Glover's in that one, and so that's where Corey Feldman comes in too, as well.
Yeah,
that's not the one where Corey Feldman shaves his head, is he?
Yeah, it is. He's the one who hits him with the machete. Yeah, he's the one who hits him with the machete at the end.
Is he like into making masks or something?
He's into being like a special effects artist. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't think that one was that bad.
No,
they got worse after that.
But. Yeah, they went downhill. They went downhill for like one or two, and
I don't remember. I gotta admit, man, I don't remember most of those.
I
get confused. Do
you remember one of them? You remember all of them?
No, I know 1 and 2 very well, and then 3 always confuses me because
I usually gets his mask.
And somebody be like, "No, that's the wrong movie" or whatever.
The hockey mask. I like 3. I like 3. I saw it at the theater, so kind of.
We saw it at the theater.
In
my
heart. Well, 3 is kind of like 3 was at 3D.
3D.
Yeah, that was the gimmick.
Yeah,
it started to be like they started to try to do the formulaic kind of team. I mean, I know the other ones were like that too, but it was like it couldn't even like sell itself or something.
Right.
Well, what was the
beyond parody at that point?
Spoiler alert coming. What was the one that it wasn't him? It was an ambulance driver?
5. That's
5?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe that was what
were you
I'm thinking of.
Were you working at the theater when 5 was there?
Yeah, I was there for 3 of them, I'm pretty sure. So
because I remember packed houses, theater 1 for that movie.
Really? Yeah, I wish I would have been for that.
There's a light, and
cool.
you think it's Tommy is killing everybody throughout the whole film, and then there's right at the end, there's like a lightning flash, and there's Tommy, and he's standing in the barn door, and it reveals that it isn't him, so he's there to kill Jason, and the audience just went bananas, and I was like, okay, and it's like the ambulance driver, and everybody was like, who? What?
Yeah, it was like, what?
Roy.
And I think that was one of those. That was one of those ones where they had to be like, okay, the audience didn't like the fact we didn't have Jason. That somebody was actually
they were very clever.
The name, so
brought him
we
back
better
like
bring him back for the next one.
Electricity in the next one. That was good.
Yeah, I remember that one too. There, so
and that's when he became.
Go ahead, Bob. Sorry,
you guys mentioned that audience reaction. When was the last movie you've kind of like got into an audience reaction like that's helped propel the film that you're watching in the last, whatever years, even prior to COVID, even, I guess? I'm trying to think like something that's really got me like, yeah, everyone's like into it.
Are we going to say Endgame? Are we going to say?
I don't know. I don't even know. I can't even think.
The audience.
Endgame. I guess. So every time something happens that I'm currently sitting in a theater that I hear people attempt to do that little half clap, I always kind of giggle. But I think you're right, Jim. I think. Oh no, it's the newest Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
that's the last.
That was good. Yeah.
So that's the one where I think people wanted Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire so bad. Those guys show up on screen and the house just went crazy. So, and we even saw ours at a later date, not the premiere. Nikki and I, but it was still that type of crowd, when those guys showed up, and all the stuff throughout the movie, with the saves at the end or whatever and stuff. Every time, I would say that
every time everybody got their little moment.
Asking Jim. Yeah. So it kept building it to the end where it was even like, oh my God, and it even got better and more cheers and stuff like that, saving the girl and all that, everybody erupted like crazy at that in the theater we saw. But I don't see that anymore, ever. during anything.
It's tough. Jim and I were talking earlier about how now do you go to the movie to see what you want to see, or what's that cutoff line where you're just going to wait and see, rent it at home, video on demand, pay $20 or whatever. It's becoming easier and easier to just stay at home. I hate to say, but yeah, well, we'll probably get into that later in a different type of thing. But
I guess it really has to be something I like. So in 2 weeks, I'm not sure the date. Oh my God, what's the date? So in two weeks or so, John Wick 4 drops.
Okay.
I am a huge fan of that series.
Oh, that's cool.
That is probably one that day of or midnight show I would still get up to go see, because I that series, at least to my experience, there hasn't been any negative crowd impact. I have some friends that talk about they'll go see a movie and it's literally ruined in the theater by crowd impact. Somebody's talking, somebody's on their phone.
I've had that happen a few times.
Yeah, somebody's doing the slushy too loud and stuff. So I guess it just depends. But the John Wick franchise, because it is what it is, like it usually starts, it goes right away. There's not a lot of downtime in that movie, so there's not a lot for people to not be paying attention to up on the screen. You know what I mean? So I still like that series to go see it in the theater. Now, flip side of that, I saw Megan. We went to see Megan opening weekend in the theater.
Right.
Having full disclosure of what I was expected to see. I wasn't expecting a phenomenon. Maybe this is the wrong thing. Somebody might get mad if I say this, but I laughed throughout almost the whole thing in a good way, not making fun of it. I enjoyed myself so much that it became infectious to others around me. I heard, couples over here and family over there. And when I was laughing, my wife hates it because I was even screaming at the screen going, let's go! Because it was so fun. It was just a fun movie. So, but other than that, I'm really picky on, I rely on you guys way too much about if something's good, if it's going to get me out of the house to go see it.
Well, that really makes the case for seeing something in a theater with an audience on an opening weekend, because that's where that energy's at. I didn't see Top Gun in the theater. I'm assuming people were pretty into that in a large group setting. You
mean Top Gun or you mean Maverick?
I'm sorry, Maverick. No, I mean Maverick. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, Top Gun Maverick.
I just want to make sure.
So, same movie.
That.
Top Gun 22.
Yeah, Top Gun 2023 is what it should be. Right. 2022.
22. Or 2021, depending on when they decided they were going to first release it. So.
Oh, yeah, it goes back 3 years now.
It's
I'm sure Bob's got all that information. Loves that
Top
movie.
Gun.
Yep.
So let's wrap up the worst list. And I just kind of wanted to tie this into, how can something go so wrong for somebody so talented? But it was a movie called Best Defense.
Oh my God! That is a horrible movie.
Eddie Murphy and Dudley Moore,
Beverly Hills Cop comes out the same year. It's how could that be?
Axel Foley and Arthur together, and what's really funny about that is they're not even in the same movie. They're in
so
different
that's
scenes.
The point of it. Yeah. So the point of it is that the scenes with Eddie Murphy are very comical, and you could see that. Okay, this is going to be cool and stuff. But yeah. It's not, he's not the driving force behind the movie, because they're split. It's actually,
is he a peripheral storyline or something?
So the storyline, what's that Arthur guy's name? What's the actor?
Dudley Moore.
Dudley Moore. So Dudley Moore is the designer of a new tank, and he's in the past. And the scenes with Eddie Murphy are test driving this tank, and hilarity ensues. Yeah, because it does not function the way it should. So that's kind of what you get out of the movie. But the scenes aren't bad, but they're kind of Eddie Murphy's getting a paycheck for $100,000, so just be funny how you can be.
You know what I mean? Go, yeah.
Yeah, be like the worst Saturday Night Live that you could do. You don't have to read anything into it.
He probably worked for 4 days, right? Maybe.
Yeah, it's like that.
I was just kind of surprised to see that it came out that same year of Beverly Hills Cop, and it's like Beverly Hills Cop is like
before or after?
It's a good question.
Here, let me tell you.
July 20 on Best Defense. It's I don't have Beverly Hills Cop.
I'm looking
on my fingertips
list here,
but I sure can find it pretty quick.
That's all right. Because I just think
like December '84, so it came out after. Beverly Hills came out after.
So that kind of would explain things right there.
Yeah,
because that's not, and it's not a starring vehicle for Eddie Murphy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not tailored around him, so to speak. By the way, everybody talks about Beverly Hills Cop, and I get it. I really do. But, like, to me, I love 48 Hours.
Oh,
like,
sure.
That's
the Eddie Murphy from the Raw
stuff, right? That's exactly what that is. Yeah. So that's Eddie Murphy from Raw, or whatever, albums that he had at the time, and the dirty jokes type of thing. He was a really good, visceral character. It was a good role for him. It was his first role, first starring role, so to speak, on the big screen. Walter Hill is a director. Team him up with Nick Nolte. You got action galore. Like, to this day, that movie should be mentioned in a lot more top 10s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, especially when it comes to action and cop movies and stuff.
At its time, it was certainly held up in high esteem.
Yeah, I just think that it gets overlooked because people go back to Beverly Hills Cop and stop, and they go forward from there. You know what I mean? So that's, to me,
I always think of 48 Hours being kind of gritty. It's like a tough cop movie. It's not like a silly Police Academy or something.
No, it's not.
Right.
And it's very rough.
If you find humor in it, it's in the dark dialogue of the story. So it's like that particular friend. Oh my God, story number 5. That particular friend loves the bar scene in there, and he could used to do it verbatim, but he loved that bar scene, and it's got witty humor in it. But if you watch the scene, it's not done for humor. It's a serious thing. They're trying to find the 2 killers, but you just laugh at it because you're like, oh my God, that's a great performance and stuff. You know what I mean? Whereas Beverly Hills Cop plays up to the jokes. Like, every scene is playing up to the jokes. Banana in the tail highlighting stuff. Yeah,
highlighting Murphy's talent.
Right. Which is bizarre because I know, Jim, I know you got that story about Stallone waiting in the wings about that thing.
No, I'm going to leave it.
Okay.
Because we discussed it the other day, and it wasn't that super interesting. And
I got to throw.
Well, I don't know, dude. If you ever get me on that subject, Cobra, we'll bring that bad boy back around. Because
Cobra twice in 1 week is like way too much Cobra.
Dude, my bar will be forever. My bar on that watching is going to be locked now at forever halfway through. I just can't even get back in it. I just can't do it.
It was rough.
And Lord knows, Sly, I love you, buddy. Like, that's like, those in the 80s were like, yeah, all right, real men. No, that thing is, oh my God, it's a travesty.
There's a lot of cheese on that.
Side note on 48 Hours for me. I know James Remar's in that, and he's an awesome villain.
Yeah,
and he was in an episode of Yellowstone, not Tombstone, Yellowstone. And I saw him in there, and I'm like, is that James Remar?
Nice.
He still looked pretty tough.
Yeah, he still plays that good role.
Yeah,
last thing I remember him in was I think he was in Django Unchained. He was in that one, so he shows up every now and then. But
he's a great villain.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie to you. I thought he passed away.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, who knows when that episode was shot? I hope he's still around.
Yeah, but I've always liked him.
Double check. He's still
especially
around.
for that movie too. He made a good villain for that thing. But it's sad because you go 40 years and you're kind of typecast as a villain because you got that face, or that's all anybody wants to do. You know what I mean?
Well, same thing with Luther in that, right? In 48 Hours, isn't whose name is unfortunately
David Patrick Kelly.
David Patrick Kelly.
That's his name. David Patrick Kelly.
Fantastic actor.
Yeah,
he always, it's like anytime he shows up in a movie, I'm like, all right, this is going to be a good movie. I mean, at least I know his part.
With him, yeah.
His part is going to be super interesting and extremely entertaining. Yep. So.
Oh yeah.
A quick question for you guys.
Ask me.
1984, you're going to the movie theater. There's 3 films showing. You get to see one: Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, Terminator, or Ghostbusters.
Ooh.
You can only afford one ticket to go. Jones, Terminator, Ghostbusters.
Is this going to be my first time seeing the film? Is it going to be my first time seeing?
This is the first. Say they all premiered in the same weekend.
It's Indiana.
I was going to say, because if we already saw the other 2 Indiana Jones, right, that would be the one that carries the most weight. You know what I mean?
The money's in the bank on that. So because I want to know the next thing. Although,
the sequel effect.
Yeah.
Controversial though, and I just rewatched this the other day, and this is one of the things we're going to talk about in the podcast coming up. Terminator. I wrote it in is Terminator a perfect movie? It is so well done. Like that early. I understand he's got so much crap surrounding him, and people feel about Avatar and stuff, but
it's the best of the franchise.
It is
sorry, number 2.
Well, yeah,
sorry, number 2.
They might argue with you on that one. So, but it is. I watched
because
it
it's so
and I
tight.
Was just amazed. I don't care about the effects. Like that's a green screen. That's the time. It's what you had at the time. I'm not looking at 2023's effect shots and going, "Oh, it looks like shit." I'm not doing that. I'm looking at the time that was really good. But I still would have to see Indiana Jones because of the previous 2. But that for me, that's tough with that Terminator. I'm a huge fan of the Terminator.
I know. Yeah. That was a video one.
Oh, they were saying that's one of those things that like propelled that film is it's after theater run on video. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Either rental or cable or something.
Rental and cable. So we have those 2 factors on making all of these things just skyrocket in our public, our consciousness. I remember I was working outside at Point. If you guys remember that, right?
Which is where
you got to wear the little cape. Where you got to wear the little cape outside and direct people to which theater.
So for those people at home who don't know that, when we worked at the theater, we had different assigned areas. Yeah, post, point, lobby, lot, things like that. And some were horrifically grueling for hours upon end, which would be the one inside in between the doors. And Jim is referencing one that where you stood outside in the cold, no matter what, like a mailman. And
and you were kind of directing traffic. Our theater had theaters upstairs and theaters downstairs, and they had different box offices for that.
But I don't understand the cape. Even to this day, the cape didn't do shit.
No, people would drive up. Well, it's an identifier. That's all it is.
Yeah, it was
the Luke Skywalker Star Wars poncho is what it was.
It was a Lando. It was a Lando.
Yeah,
cape.
the Lando cape. Yeah,
that's exactly what that was.
Yeah,
and we would have people would drive up and go, "What time is this movie playing?" You'd be like, you had to whip out your paperwork and tell them what time.
Your little cheat sheet. Yeah,
your movie facts list.
Yeah. Anyways, I was
quoted just right.
I was out working Point, and that was the era where the Algiers was still behind us / next to us. The drive-in. So there was a drive-in next to this movie theater. And I just glanced over, and all of a sudden this robot shooting this laser gun and blowing stuff up, and I'm like, what movie is this? My eyes just bugged out of my head. Because we didn't get it inside.
We didn't get that one.
No,
we didn't get it. And I remember you coming to tell me about that, and I was like, what are you talking about? So I had an engineer to make sure I took the trash out.
Yeah.
So, and if you were clever, you took the trash down to that Theater 1, that long walk, and you just built it up in the exit down there. So I made sure it was built up enough that when I went out, I had a good few minutes to watch the next thing.
Not a fire hazard at all.
No, not at all. And I got to see, so here's what ruined it for me. I got to see the police station scene.
Ooh,
that's the one when I took the trash out. And I was like,
that's the I'll be back one. Right?
Yeah. And I told Jim, and he probably doesn't remember this, but I was like, dude, what movie are you talking about? I saw no robots because we had no context yet, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, I don't get that, dude. I just saw that dude. What's that dude that speaks funny? Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was just shooting everything up. Oh, you mean that Conan dude? Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Eventually, though, I think we did get it upstairs on its when it was on its dying run.
Right.
It came to us. Yeah.
Not quite Bob's Prince phase. I did spend the money on a pair of gargoyle glasses. So
spike your hair.
Those sunglasses. I didn't spike my hair. I just had the gargoyle sunglasses.
Hey, them gargoyle sunglasses. They were expensive at the time. They found $120 if I remember correctly. So they were expensive.
Someone stole them. So it was short-lived.
Dude, there are a lot. First of all, for the audience out there are a lot of stories I can tell about Jim. Jim invested a lot of money in some oddball things that ended up being cool.
Oh, yeah.
And to this day, I would give anything to be a time traveler to pop in and see 1982 through 87 Jim. Because I would love to see that guy carrying around his backpack with Mogwai in it. Because that would be amazing.
Gizmo's around here somewhere.
Sorry. Yeah, Gizmo.
Yeah,
so,
I still have. Well, he was a Mogwai. I still have him though.
Yeah. Hey, you were the only dude that had a hat.
Oh, a fedora. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
dude,
for all those
guy had that.
For all those
hard to come by back then.
You know, when you're watching when you're watching 16 Candles or Breakfast Club, and there's some idiot in there dressed like some movie character, that was
they
me.
knew all the lines.
Yeah, so that would have been me.
Yeah, like I said, dude, I would love to just pop in and be like,
well, before I got my leather jacket, you know how hard it was to find a brown members only jacket before I worked my way up to a leather coat? Terrible.
I can imagine.
Terrible.
Members only. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was probably some knockoff one too. It was like, members club or some oddball.
I stayed away from that. I did not get the members only phase. I mean, is that the one that had the little lapel?
No, it had the pocket. Had the pocket.
Yeah, little pocket. And the little thing around the neck and the little lapels. Yeah, epaulets. Yeah.
Oh. Maybe I didn't escape that then, because I do remember a coat that had the epaulets on it.
It would have had to been black for you. So
it was black. Yes, mine was black. So. Yeah, everything was. I've been wearing black my whole life. I can't even talk about that. So I enjoy the color. It matches anything.
Do we have anything left? In the.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a little addendum to. Yeah. I was talking about Purple Rain being the big concert movie. That year was also the Stop Making Sense Talking Heads movie. Oh. I know it's considered pretty big in history, so I just wanted to kind of throw that in there too.
Interesting.
Any other movies you guys want to? I mean, what was? You guys know what best movie of the year was in '84? Academy Award for Best Picture.
Best Picture. Amadeus.
Yeah. Amadeus. Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Terms of Endearment.
Oh, well then Amadeus must have came out different year. That one, or did that win for Best Actor?
Oh, he may have won.
It was because what do you call the
Best Adapted?
The actor was this. I can't remember his name.
Well, F. Murray Abraham.
He won.
F. Murray Abraham.
Yeah. Okay. Holy cow, that was a font of information. Holy shit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've got a list here of the movies released in 1984 by month. I'm just gonna I'm gonna read these off, and if they say something to you, say something. Angel. Do you remember that one?
Nope.
I remember the video box.
That was the girl from Jaws 2 who cried the entire movie, and she was like a schoolgirl by day, but a streetwalker by night.
I remember the.
Do you remember this one?
Oh my God! Yeah, she was on the video box with a gun, wasn't she?
She was dressed as a schoolgirl.
Yeah.
A schoolgirl on one side, and then like the hot pants, high heels on the other side.
God.
Okay, so we got Hot Dog the movie, which I think was a skiing film. Surf.
First of all, if that's the one I'm thinking of, dude, I love Hot Dog the movie. So I'm going to say this. That friend that we're always referencing,
yes,
that was the number one rented movie at the time for us to watch. We loved Hot Dog the movie so much.
This is Spinal Tap. Came out in March.
That became a classic.
Yeah, dude. At the time, I don't think anybody knew.
I don't think, no.
Yeah. If we probably looked all that information up, it probably did like a dime. Because, like, I don't think anybody understood the awesome parody humor in that thing.
Right. I saw that at a college showing in like 1990-ish, something like that.
We watched it in like film class.
It blew me away. It was hilarious. It was just like, oh my God, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
The Natural. Does anybody want to tell the Natural story?
It's one of my all-time favorites. Natural's like one of my all-time favorite sports movies.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
It's a good one. Also that May, we got Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
That's the official start of the summer right there.
That's the start of the summer.
Yeah, oh my God.
Muppets Take Manhattan?
Muppets Take Manhattan?
Yes.
In 84? Wow.
In 84 in July. 20th we got...
My wife loves the Muppets. Loves them.
Because she's a woman of class.
Yeah,
good taste.
Like, I'm staring at one right now. I got one over on that thing, Muppets in Space, from space or something. Man, that's crazy. Well, again, arguably, not only 84, but I think as more time goes on with us, we're going to be referencing a lot of stuff out of the 80s that has still long-lasting cultural impact to today. You know what I mean?
Well, it connects to today even, for us.
Yeah, like certainly. I'm really surprised to hear some of those titles coming back.
Yeah, it seems weird. It seems like a lot of those are many years apart. Like I don't...
When Jim can just drop and by the way, A Nightmare on Elm Street came out.
That's...
That's a groundbreaking horror movie. You know?
Yeah, and you said, did you say Silent Night, Deadly Night? Or
yeah. Same one.
So that's the Santa one, right?
That's the Santa one, yeah.
Controversy, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big deal. That was a big...
And then opening Christmas weekend for Terror in the Isles was huge because people were... Where do you go to pay... it's a clip show. You get to pay one price. You get to see all these clips, and people love that. And it was narrated by...
Jamie Lee.
Donald Pleasance. Oh, yeah, great.
Dude. Yeah, so I remember that. And then you get Elm Street the next month. Oh, my gosh.
Elm Street. Crazy. I saw Elm Street, real quick story. I saw it at Covadas with my high school sweetheart there. And we both, when the bad kid starts going up to the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
In the bedroom. Yeah. And starts getting all the bloody and all that. We were like, we got to get out of here. We actually walked out. We were so freaked out by this thing. Yeah, that was one of the few that we were like, oh my God, this is too crazy.
Wow, dude, I would never expect that from you.
Yeah,
horror fan that you are.
I know. We were just like, this is too much.
Was it too much for you? Or was it too
much for her?
A little bit of both. We were both like, kind of, it was freaky. It was so freaky.
It was pretty, there was some pretty freaky stuff. The creepiest thing I think of that is the body bag going down the hall by itself.
Yeah.
With the trail of blood.
That and his long arms.
Long arms, right.
Freddy's weird. The long arms.
In the alleyway.
Which looked goofy now, but back in the day, it was like, what the hell am I looking at?
That's what I'm saying, and, well, I don't know why that just jogged a memory, but we're fans of American Werewolf in London,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, my daughter watched that one day because I referenced it a lot, and she kind of stood there watching it, and she giggled at one scene, and I was like, uh-oh, I've lost her. Because, and you know what it is? It's where he's on the floor.
Oh, and he's,
and then
flopping about.
The changing?
Yeah, he's on his back.
He's on his back, yeah.
Yeah, and it's clearly like the head is through the floor and stuff, but
right.
Other than that, though, then she came back around a little bit because, when they actually have the wolf, she was like, "Oh my God," But she really does try to look at things for what they are, and I mentioned that because that's kind of like the arms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You do what you have to do at the time, But at the time, that wolf transformation was I'd never seen anything like that on the screen. I mean, that, except like maybe The Exorcist as far as a body transformation thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's funny because I think when we reference the 80s movies and specifically like the 84 stuff, I always have this debate in my family about it's where you are at the time on how it reflects you for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
So if I say, oh man, you got to watch this movie and blah, 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 and then my family watches, they might be like, oh my God, that was so boring, because they have the internet or they, looked up this or they have 1,500, different movies that are really gory and stuff. And you're desensitized now. You didn't, I was afraid of Freddy stabbing somebody. That was a real thing on the screen when you were like, oh my God, somebody's getting stabbed. That's terrifying. That's horrible.
Anybody could get it at any time. Yeah.
The time.
Yeah, I just,
try to stay awake. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you watch that stuff nowadays, there's not, my wife hates jump scares. She hates even video games or anything else with jump scares. She just terrified of them. But, jump scares were a staple for the movies that we watched, but the gore versus the terrifying thing, I was always kind of like, oh, catch your breath and stuff. Where nowadays you just see somebody get stabbed and they turn it into a comedy, like that one where it's like the day it just keeps repeating itself, even though it's a really gory movie. You know what I mean? So it's just a different kind of quality of horror back then, because I think what started obviously with say Psycho and went into the 70s, which we'll explore some other time, where you got really good horror movies, but not horror movies like we're kind of used to. I think it was the 80s, and of course, our boy John Carpenter, with the slashers and stuff like that, when you actually started seeing things that you weren't used to seeing,
Right.
Like, remember that girl in Friday the 13th got that axe in the face and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
Like, to me, I was like, I didn't know how to respond to that. I was horrified. When I saw that, I was like, like Halloween is nothing, dude. I mean, stabbed to the wall. Like, you don't really see anything. Like, Halloween is all psychological as well.
Yeah, suspenseful build-up.
Yeah, but suspenseful build-up. But some of those other ones, like with Friday the 13th, which I really, no offense to John Carpenter, but Friday the 13th took everything they had in Halloween and said, well, we're just going to show it. We're going to show all the good stuff. Dude getting cut, stabbed in the eye and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, man, that stuff was really good. I'm not some sadomasochist, but I mean, as those effects got a lot better,
well, that's the whole thing. That's
right.
The whole thing you're saying right there, is that the special effects artists became like, how could we do this? And I'm sure they found a way to do it.
But they let them do it, and it's a changing time. That's what people don't understand. So in the 80s, that was a changing time for cinema when it came to stuff like that. So you would see, that American Werewolf change, which that includes a lot of body horror. It was a huge thing on screen where you're like, oh my God. Nowadays it's nothing. See that every time you turn around with the next David Cronenberg movie, stuff like that.
Sure.
Wow. All right. Well,
we'll wrap up our 84 talk, and then
we really went long on that.
Yeah. Just a brief, maybe we'll talk about some brief movies coming out real quick.
Yeah. We're also in this type of podcast. We want to do other things that are just not necessarily movies, collectibles, toys, soundtracks, records, movies, home theater, physical media, all kinds of stuff like that. We do want to touch into. I don't have anything in say our little collectors thing. I don't have anything to mention about that. I picked up a book real quick. As you guys know, I'm a huge gamer, not video gamer, although I do dabble in that, but like Dungeons and Dragons, TTRPGs and stuff. So I picked up one of those prequels to the movie coming out.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it's like
that trailer looked. That trailer looked pretty good. I mean, I'm not even a Dungeons and Dragon guy, and it looked pretty interesting.
Yeah, the more I see about it, and Jim, we talked about that scene.
Yes.
That we both saw about the Raise the Dead or whatever it was. Very funny.
Felt very gameplay. Very much.
That's about the only thing I got. And then Bob, I'm sure you can give us an update on
Well, we had talked through the week about some of the you kind of are able to see the new release Tuesday firsthand a lot of times, and not the Rocky. I know the Rocky Knockout Collection on 4K came out.
Right.
Unfortunately, I've been hearing a lot of audio issues with that. I'm going to have to research that a little bit. There's some funky audio things. You might want to look into that. I'm not sure if they're going to be doing any kind of replacement disc, but it sounds like it's kind of a lot of clamoring going on with some audio issues. So that's kind of got me bummed out a little bit. But I haven't checked that out. I got that one. Haven't checked it out. The Texas Chainsaw 4K. Curious to see that because I don't know how much. I guess everyone says the HDR on it, how that helps the color look of that film, because I don't know how much. It's shot on 16, I think, so I don't know how much you're going to get out of it. I'm sure it'll look pristine, but that's kind of a classic. What else is big?
Well, you're talking about that Rocky collection. I made that mistake about the release date of what I want, because the only physical media I collect are those steel books.
Steel books, yeah.
And the first one had come out. Rocky, by the way, we're talking about Rocky, but like this week coming up, because it is Sunday that we're doing this. So, but Rocky 2, I will definitely be picking up, because I literally just I texted you guys the other day. I literally just watched that on HBO, and I gotta admit, it's still my favorite. I get there's something about that one, even though
he's still an underdog.
Yeah, the MTV slickness of the 3s and 4s, they're really good. They're that good hurrah type thing, and I cannot count out Mr. T. Oh my God, we can spend some time later talking about that guy. Yeah. I mean, as far as the villain goes, cool. He is a great villain.
Yeah, they did it good in the film.
Yeah, they did. But I can't wait to get Rocky 2 on 4K release this week. So that's going to be the highlight of something that I've really been looking forward to.
I know there's some older releases coming out that I'm curious about. Cool Hand Luke coming out soon. Rebel Without a Cause, Maltese Falcon. It's all coming out 4K. And it's always interesting to see those really old movies that are like remastered or just pristine looking. It's kind of an interesting viewing. It's almost like seeing it again for a new perspective on it. A newer one I've seen. Do you want to comment on that, Mark?
No, go ahead.
Oh, a newer one that I've seen up for pre-order now is that Superman 1 through 4 or 5 movie collection on 4K.
Yeah,
that's a big one, I would think.
Yeah, I have a really nice DVD collection of that, but not 4K release. So I cannot imagine that looking better with the colors on that one. Like 4K's it's got to pop. I mean, the copies that I've always had, or even watching it on TV and stuff, it still pops. You know what I mean? So a 4K release with the sound, especially, hopefully, obviously Dolby Atmos. You know what I mean?
Right. Something nice sound design on it would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd be looking forward to those, because nostalgia wise, they are really good.
Not sure if they're releasing them individually or not. I'd be curious to see.
That's the only thing I'd have an issue with. So that's all I got about physical
other
stuff.
than that, for physical stuff, we're just kind of, it seems like a lot of things are coming out in April. A lot of those older movies. That's kind of a big time.
I know that Cocaine Bear keeps getting that talk.
Yeah.
What happened to that? Did that just die out, or?
I think my daughter went to see that last night. She's like, "If you saw the trailer, you know what it's about." And
oh wow!
Pretty much.
Okay. I mean,
I'm sure it's a fun,
right.
To me, it's like
take
Megan.
It serious.
Yeah, you can't take it serious. It's like Megan. You know what I mean?
No.
So
it's just how many. It's like a video game kind of thing. Are they going to get how many people or whatever?
Right. You know what came in under the radar? We didn't talk about it. Is that Knock at the Cabin? Didn't that? I think that already came out. Yeah. So.
That's what Jim and I were talking
about.
I haven't seen anything about it yet. I'm very interested in it. I still want to see it.
Me too. So, I keep avoiding spoilers on it, and by the time I get the time or inkling to see it, it'd probably be on some kind of demand thing. So
I was just going over the list of releases, and I did not know there's a new Evil Dead coming out in April.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a trailer.
It's called, Evil Dead Rise. So I didn't know it was that soon. I knew there was something in the works, but in March we got. If you want to look, you got that Dungeons and Dragons on March 31st, March 17th you got Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and March 24th you got John Wick Chapter 4. So March is pretty heavy. April's kind of a hit or miss with a couple of things, and then May obviously picks back up again with some Guardians of the Galaxy. You got the new Fast X. So, what do you guys think about that Renfield? See the trailer for that yet?
It should be fun.
No.
Yeah, should be fun. I mean, it
stars Nicholas Hoult as Renfield and Nicolas Cage as Dracula. It looks like a comedy. I would assume
it's a comedy. Yeah.
A dark comedy.
Yeah, I would say so.
Probably.
But it's. I just watched the trailer when we get.
I'll have to check that one out.
So,
it looks like
Adam?
Nick Cage is having fun, so good for him.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. He was having a lot of fun on that.
Have you guys seen that trailer for the Adam Driver one coming out?
Yeah,
it's
like 60, is it 64?
65.
All right, 65.
Yeah.
Kind of got me intrigued a little.
Oh yeah, I'm interested in seeing that. So
the only thing that bothers me,
and they gave it away.
Wife, that they gave it away.
Maybe.
Why does every trailer have to do that?
Because we'll do a whole podcast on how no one knows how to make a trailer anymore.
Oh my God, dude. I was like, that thing would be so much better. And I don't know what the movie's about, honestly, yet. But if the premise alone, either they're going to pull one out from under us and it's going to go somewhere where we didn't expect. But if it is what it looks like, imagine the reveal for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Bob? You seen the trailer for that?
I kind of breezed over it on TV. I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." It looked like kind of like a Jurassic Park kind of thing or something.
Well, when they crash land, it's all this technology in their spaceship, and we got these problems and stuff. And also these dinosaurs attack, but it don't tell you what it is until towards the end of the trailer you find out there's 65 million years in Earth's past.
It's like a Planet of the Apes kind of thing or something.
Yeah, so I'm really curious of talking about that. Boy, there's a series, Planet of the Apes. They just did the 5 and then done, and it took 20 years or 30 years to
we
revisit that franchise again.
We could do a whole pod on that.
Yeah, we could do a whole month of pods on that. So
all right. So we'll wrap that up. That was pretty fun.
That was
a little bit longer than we wanted to, but yeah, it was a fun
Thanks,
one.
guys.
So maybe we could change this from podcast 0 to podcast 1.
Maybe we have to edit some stuff down and things, but
see what we can get out of it.
Obviously, I will say the things that everybody says, which is you should like and follow us. Look over on our Facebook page for anything interesting to participate. We would always love everybody's feedback. What were you going to say, Bob?
What is it? The Fandom Outpost?
The Fandom Outpost, yeah. So if, Facebook is more your style, that's where they want to go to find out little tidbits and things like that.
That's probably our main portal right now, right?
Yep, right now and stuff. So, yep. And I guess that'll wrap it up till next time. You guys got anything?
No, that's it.
Until next time, we'll come up with a new topic, I'm sure, tomorrow.
Okay. All right, then. So we will see everybody next time.